Welcome back, everybody, to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. I'm Salim, and I'm joined by my co-host, Coach Ralph. Coach, how you doing?
Feeling much happier this week, Salim, as I'm sure you are too.
Yes, I am. Although it was 2 wins, one was slightly disappointing because of the two legs, but the Fulham victory was very encouraging.
Right. I think you've got to get the game in Italy in perspective. Obviously, the damage was done in the first leg, and even though it wasn't a convincing performance in Italy, they still went over. They won the game, and they kept a clean sheet against a team that's an attacking force.
Yeah, I thought with the early goal in the 7th minute from penalty kick from Salah, it kind of gave you ideas of Barcelona, but obviously this game was away. And then I think when Salah missed that great opportunity to chip the keeper in the 39th minute, I think that's when I knew it wasn't going to happen. And to be fair to Atalanta, they put the clamps down in the second half.
They did, and I think you're right on there with the Salah chance. I mean, really, for a player of his level, that's not a difficult opportunity because the ball bounces perfectly in front of him, and he just fluffs his lines, and I think that kind of sums his game up at the moment.
Yeah, he's been off for several weeks now. We've been noticing it, but that he's still an incredible player, and we know at any point in time he can catch fire.
Exactly, and I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start tomorrow, especially with Jota out now for the game. So I don't know if you've heard, but he picked up an injury on Saturday.
I saw that. Yeah, I think his hip.
Yeah, I haven't heard exactly what the injury is, but sounds like he's out for a week or two. He won't be playing at the weekend either, which obviously is a shame, given that he's a player we've talked about and other Liverpool fans have been talking about in his absence.
Yeah. Just to wrap up the second leg of the game in Bergamo against Atalanta, there was a couple things that I kind of noticed. I think Trent showed exactly how unique of a weapon he is. He was pressing a little bit, but I thought he played very well for the 60-odd minutes he played, and I thought Cody Gakpo played well too. It just, the physicality of Atalanta and the fact that we couldn't get the ball forward because they weren't pressing the back line or the goalie, but they were pressing the midfielders and the forwards. I mean, no time to turn. They were right there. I thought Atalanta really, their physicality was just something really unique, because you always talk about the British game being more physical than the other ones, and I just thought Atalanta played really, really well.
They did. They had an excellent game plan, and you've identified the issues in midfield. And my guess is that's why we saw the wholesale changes for the Fulham game.
Yeah. Player of the game for that game, just to kind of wrap that one up. I mean, I don't know. So maybe Salah, I guess, for the goal, or I would probably say Trent.
Probably Trent. I don't think anybody particularly stood out that day. I suppose if you look at it in general terms, it was a win. It was a win on the road against a good team in Italy. Wasn't it Anfield?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously there was still the element of disappointment as well, because the feeling was that was a team that if Liverpool was firing on their old cylinders, they should be able to handle.
Yeah, and quarterfinal exit in the Europa League. There is a silver lining. 1 week at a time, 1 game, 1 week at a time now. So there'll be some rest. There'll be some more tactical stuff, more stuff on the training ground. So there is a silver lining there.
Hopefully, I think that one's yet to be resolved, but I hope you're right.
So moving on to the Fulham game, what are some things that you took away from the game?
I think the first thing was the team selection, because
Yeah.
it was a surprise. It was a surprise. And I understand the stat is that that's the most changes that Jurgen Klopp has ever made from one Premier League game to another Premier League game, and that's in his history with the club. I know he's made lots of changes for cup games, but that was very significant. It was a shock, but I think it also revealed that basically what we've known all along, that the team is starting to run out of gas a little bit, and I think especially in the midfield. And even though McAllister has been brilliant at times, even he was due a little bit of a break. Was he right to take it at that particular time? If the result had gone against Liverpool, because Fulham's a good team, and they beaten Arsenal at home, I believe they beat Tottenham as well. So they are a force, and they'd given Liverpool a couple of games that they only just got over the line against them earlier in the season. So it was always going to be a tough game. But I suppose the other side of the coin is that the manager knows his players and knows his team. And I think the players came in. It took Gravenberch a bit of time to get going, but he scored one heck of a goal.
Yeah, it was a beauty.
So that has to be massive for his confidence, massive going forward, and it shows that he's a player that the manager can rely on.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking to hear that was his first goal in the Premier League. I know he scored a couple, I guess, in Europa League and FA Cup maybe, or Carabao Cup, but I think there's definitely a settling in period when you come from abroad to play, and especially in this team with the style of play. So it was really nice to see him score. It was a really nice goal. It was off a turnover. Elliott gave it to him, and I think 2 touches, and then just wrapped it right around Leno. It was a really, really nice goal. And speaking of goals, I mean, Trent's free kick. God, we missed that, didn't we? For the couple months he was out.
Oh, it was top notch. It was absolutely top class goal, top class free kick. I think we talked about in previous weeks that there's been a stat this year about how fewer goals there are direct from free kicks in the Premier League because of the ways that teams prepare. But really, how can you prepare for a free kick like that? Because it was right in the top corner, and nobody was going to stop that. Nobody.
Yeah, and it got me thinking. I thought, did he score against Fulham again? And I said, yes, he did. He scored in the 4-3 game. He scored the final goal, but also he had a free kick in that game that bounced off the top crossbar off of Leno into the goal. So he almost had 2 free kick goals against one opposition.
Yeah,
and 2 goals, and I don't know if you clock the own goal as an assist for Trent or not, but I mean, it was I just kind of went back and wanted to see the games against Fulham, and we played them in the Carabao Cup too, over 2 legs, and 1-1 was the first leg and 2-1 was the second leg. So there were some good performances all around. I thought Gakpo was really good again, and Diogo Jota. I mean, what can we say about this guy's finishing? I mean, I heard somebody talk about his finishing and his shots being. He described them as heavy. They're heavy shots. Like there's power, but for some reason they carry a little extra weight on them, which I thought was an interesting comment. But it's a shame that he's hurt. But again, what a goal, just kind of to seal it up and take all the tension away from the game.
Oh, it's a blow. I think there's no question about it. But Gakpo's actually been showing up pretty well in these last few games. I thought he was lively over in Italy for a while, early in the game, and he looked good again against Fulham. So maybe this is time for Cody Gakpo to really come forward and do his stuff, as it were.
Yeah. Coach, why do you think in the 74th minute that Salah, McAllister, and Darwin came on for Diaz, Gravenberch, and Jota? What's the reasoning? What's the thinking behind that? Just to get them some minutes, the game was over, just to get some confidence? What do you think? Because we've been describing that the team is leggy. They're running out of gas. Why not just kind of let them sit this one out?
Well, I think just playing for a short period of time shouldn't really take too much out of them, and it keeps them within game mode. And I think that's part of Jurgen Klopp's thinking, keeps them involved, because that pretty much has been the tactic through the season. The only difference is that maybe the players he was bringing in are usually the starters. So I think he just flipped the coin there. And he did it the other way around.
Yeah, I hear that, I don't know, maybe you can talk about this a little bit more, but that if players that are on the bench that don't play, like they do some sort of training exercise after to kind of simulate a game. Is that right?
They do something after a game. I'm not sure if it's just as basic as sprints, but they are out on the field. Yeah, like they do something.
So yeah, that makes sense then, for the last 16 minutes of the game that you can just kind of put them on and that'll be their workout versus after the game. So that makes sense.
Exactly.
Coach, the Fulham Liverpool game, the 4-3 game, I'm just kind of looking at my notes here. That was the one when McAllister hit that volley from 25 yards out that just kind of tailed off into the top corner. So, I mean, these games against Fulham have been really good and really good goals.
Yeah. As I said earlier, Fulham have been very, very competitive this year. I think they have good players. I think they're well organised. And they're a bit up and down. I'm sure the manager there, Marco Silva, will be striving for consistency. I think that's the next thing he has to shoot for. But on the day, they're very good.
Yeah, the goal that we gave away in extra time of the first half to Timothy Castagna, a bit unfortunate, I think. The shot came in over really great build-up play from Fulham, and he just kind of found himself about 10 yards out and hit the ball, and Endo saw him coming, so he went to the back post to kind of protect that, and Allison just got his foot on it, which kind of redirected it and threw Endo off for the goal. But you could see kind of the heads drop a little bit after that goal. What do you think the team was going through there?
Well, I think that after a poor run, because Liverpool this year has if anything, been overachieving, not just in terms of results, but in terms of results when so many key performers have been away through injury. And then they hit that bad run, and all of a sudden, maybe they start to doubt themselves. And I think pretty much Liverpool had the upper hand in the first half at Craven Cottage, but there was that spell just before the interval when Fulham seemed to come into the game more, and the Castagna goal, and he did take it well, to be fair.
Yeah,
the Castagna goal kind of meant that the half was going to end not one goal to the good, but it was back to square one. And after a bad run, I think the doubt maybe just showed itself a little bit. But I suppose that with the benefit of hindsight, you could say, well, they didn't have too long to dwell on it because it was half time. Time to get back into the changing room, time for the manager to kind of G them up again, refocus them, and I think that's what we saw after the interval.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, that it probably did come at a good time versus it coming maybe in like the first minute of the second half.
Precisely.
Yeah,
Precisely. Yeah.
yeah. Who would you say was the man of the match of that game?
Hmm. I think you've got to give it to Trent again, if
Yeah,
only for that incredible free kick. Yeah.
yeah. He played really well, and he almost got 80. I think 80 minutes in. Yeah, he got 80 minutes in before Joe
Got a
Gomez. Yeah,
good run,
yeah,
and made an impact.
yeah. Coach, any other big takeaways from kind of the change in form here? Because last week was doom and gloom, and this week we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're tied for points with Arsenal, even though we're behind in goal differential. Granted, Man City has a game in hand.
Well, they've got 2 games in hand, if you're going to be literal
Oh,
about it.
yeah, tomorrow, yeah.
But yes, the thing is that Liverpool got a result in a game that was anticipated as a difficult game. They'd been travelling away. They'd been out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that goes along with that. They came back. They refreshed the team by bringing in maybe more of the bench type players, and they came away with the result. So I think that has to give a lot of confidence moving on to the next game tomorrow.
Yeah, and I want to spend some time previewing the game tomorrow, but before we do that, Coach, have you seen the rumors of the Feyenoord coach now being one of the top contenders for the Liverpool manager job?
I have, yes, yeah, I've seen that.
I don't know much about him. I think Arne Slot. Am I saying that right?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not familiar with him either. So, yeah, I don't know what the issue is or was with Amarin, because it's being talked about that he might go to West Ham. So I don't know if that means that he wasn't interested in Liverpool or Liverpool weren't interested in him.
Yeah.
So who knows? So yeah, the Feyenoord manager, Arnie, I'll just call him Arnie because I'm not sure how his last name is pronounced.
Okay.
He appears to be the new flavour of the month, as it were. And there's still a couple of others that they're talking about. They are talking about the Brentford manager as well, Thomas Frank, which personally I think would be a very good appointment.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. When we started the podcast, that was one of your first shout outs to a guy that could manage a team.
Right, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see if there are more twists and turns, and see if Arnie's really interested. As long as it's not Arnie Schwarzenegger. Can't even say his name. Schwarzenegger. That's it. As long as it's not that Arnie.
The interesting thing with the Liverpool job is that it's a massive responsibility, massive role. Do you think maybe Ruben Amorim maybe thought, kind of like Xabi Alonso thought at Bayer Leverkusen, that maybe I'm not ready for that next step, or I want to spend another year? Because these guys are clearly thinking about their own development versus taking the dream job right away.
It could be, but I think the other thing that you've got to think of is Liverpool is in that kind of top elite group in Europe of clubs, and how many times you get an opportunity to coach at that level, it may never come again. Now, I do think that with Alonso, and obviously I'm not there and I'm not party to everything, but I just have a feeling that he fancies a return to Spain. And you've kind of got the Carlo Ancelotti situation whereby, and I know he signed a new contract, but who knows whether or not that this is his last season coming up.
Yeah,
maybe in 12 months' time, my guess is that he would be in the driving seat to get that position. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the back of his mind. And in the next year, he gets experience with Leverkusen. Firstly, they have to be in the running to win the Europa League because they're in the last 4. And then he gets Champions League football with Leverkusen, and so that tests him from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he can. Yeah, that's a very good point. And I mean, the Real Madrid job, I'm sure, is that's maybe the top job in the world. I mean, that team always performs really well.
Well, he's Spanish as well. He's Spanish,
of course,
so
yeah.
so it's. I'm sure that's got an appeal to him.
And he played there. Yep.
Yeah, he played there, and with Amorim, I mean, it's the same as Arnie. I mean, I really don't know too much about him. I'd heard much about him before he was kind of being thrust into the limelight by the media as the next Liverpool manager.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's not going to happen now. So we move on to the next guy.
Do you think De Zerbi is still a guy that's in position to take over the Liverpool job? And if he were, how would you feel about that?
I believe he's still on the shortlist. The shortlist that I heard was Arnie, Thomas Frank, De Zerbi, and there's one more whose name escapes me right now. That is my understanding that's the shortlist, with the Feyenoord manager being top at this moment in time. De Zerbi, I think he's a good coach. But I also have reservations as well. He's done well at Brighton, and certainly for a while there, he was flavour of the month because they did so well last season, and they schooled Liverpool in 2 games last year, fairly comprehensively. When it has to be said, the team was going through a very similar spell over a longer period of time than the week that we've just had, where they were looking very, very jaded. He hasn't done quite as well this year. He's had injury problems. But I just get a feeling with him that there's something that's very erratic in the way that he goes from game to game during the season.
Yeah. I mean, losing McAllister and Caicedo, that's not nothing. So one thing I do like about De Zerbi is his rotation. He constantly rotates the team, so he keeps everybody fresh. Granted, they don't, they haven't played as many games as Liverpool does, but I kind of like that point of view from that aspect of his.
Well, like it or not, the modern game, certainly for top teams, needs rotation, and makes me smile sometimes when I hear the pundits talking about teams having their best 11. I think those days are gone, long gone, in fact. I think managers, when they put their squads together, if everybody's fit, they're now thinking, okay, who are our top 16? Players that we can get into the match to play particular roles at different times of the game for different situations. So really, it's a 16-man game now, I think. The days of the best 11, I think, are long gone.
Yeah. And I see how you're saying the 16 because of the 5 substitutes that can come in and impact the game.
Yeah, I think that's been a huge thing for Jurgen Klopp this year, the way that he substituted. We've talked about this before. I mean, like, that has been his pattern. And even to the point in the Carabao Cup final where he did it again. And the only difference was he was bringing on teenagers, academy kids, but he still did it.
Yeah. Okay, on to Everton at Goodison Park tomorrow. The last 5 games that Liverpool have played against Everton: 2-0 to Liverpool, 2-0 to Liverpool, a 0-0 draw, 2-0 to Liverpool, and 4-1 to Liverpool.
So are you talking about games between Liverpool and Everton?
Correct. The last 5 between.
Right. I think that what you have to isolate in all of that is during Jurgen Klopp's time, he's taking them to Goodison 7 times, and they've never lost. But 5 of the games have been draws, and 4 of them have been 0-0. And unfortunately, I think that's a key stat coming into this game, because I think that I think we all know the most likely pattern of the game, which is Everton sitting in. And okay, like they had that debacle against Chelsea last week, but that's really not the norm for Everton this season. Even though they've not been great defensively, they've been very resolute and they've defended well. And Liverpool, even when they're playing well with all their big guns, I feel that they struggle sometimes against teams that sit in.
Mm-hmm.
And the tendency this year, I think one stat for this year is Liverpool have only scored twice in the first 15 minutes of a game, which is okay. They've been incredible at the end of a game, and that actually historically that has always been a factor in Liverpool Football Club. You know, that they finish the game strongly, they score late goals, and I mean, like that goes back to the 70s, because I know when I was taking my coaching licenses, they actually discussed that the number of goals that Liverpool score in the latter parts of a game. So we're talking about over 50 years ago. So that is part of the DNA of the club, but it's been unusual to see the slow starts this year. And as everybody keeps reminding us, and it's the truth, Liverpool have a tendency to concede first before they score. And so that makes it very interesting going into the Goodison game, because if Liverpool can score early in the game, that puts a totally different complexion on the proceeding.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that Everton will be kind of coming out like a bat out of hell to try and get the goal back, but at some point they've got to get the bus and drive it forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think an early goal will make one heck of a difference, really. And the longer the game goes on that's tied, I think a draw is all the more likely. And historically, as I've said, even in recent years when Liverpool have had some very, very strong teams, 0-0 has tended to be the score at Goodison Park.
Yeah, two things come to mind when one thing, even this was a game a couple years back when it was like the 89th minute or something, a corner kick, Van Dijk miskicks the ball, somehow Pickford bottles it somehow, and
the Origi goal. That was at Anfield.
Oh, that wasn't Anfield. Okay, all right.
That was Anfield. I mean, if you look at the two wins that Liverpool have had during Klopp's time there, Sadio Mane scored the winning goal right at the end of the game. You know, it was looking like a 0-0 draw, and then Sadio Mane scored. And then there was a 4-1 win, which basically Everton had just had a horrible run with injuries. And Liverpool did score early in that game. And so basically they were exposed because they had to go and try and get something.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, Jordan Henderson scored in the 9th minute in that game. Okay, yeah. And then Salah in the 19th. One thing that you were talking about is the stat of the team not scoring the least goals in the first 15 minutes. And it's really surprising to hear that stat. I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense because we're kind of giving goals up first. But when you think of the team with Sadio Mane and Firmino and Salah and, the midfield and how we used to blitz teams, I mean, you could be 5-10 minutes late to turn the game on. It could be 2-0 already. So it's really interesting that kind of blitzkrieg offense that the team used to enjoy now is kind of on the back end. Kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who he picks as his three starting forwards. I mean, Liverpool has pace. And Everton, I watched the Everton game at the weekend as well, and I'm sure you heard about the controversy over the penalties.
I did, yeah.
And all three of them involved Ashley Young playing at right back.
Okay.
So what does Sean Dyche do coming into this game? Because you're talking about Liverpool will probably have Diaz over on that side.
Mm-hmm.
Tricky, fast, high energy versus an aging fullback. So will he go with Young again, particularly after the weekend? Personally, I thought the third incident was a definite penalty. The other two, I thought Rainier dived, to be honest with you. He touched him, but I thought Rainier made a meal of it. And then the one with his arm, look, there's just so much inconsistency over that. I mean, like, that could have been a penalty. I mean, to me, ball to hand's not a penalty, and that was ball to hand. But so many of these ball to hand incidents are given, and look, there's no consistency there. But you'd have to think that the manager of Everton has to be thinking carefully about who he sticks at right back. Does he put in another veteran in Seamus Coleman, who is a legitimate fullback, very experienced, but who might run out of gas too? He's got Nathan Patterson, who's a younger player, who I think is a good player, but he's more of an attacking fullback than he is a defensive fullback. And another option could be Ben Godfrey, who is probably more of a central defender, but like Joe Gomez, often ends up playing right or left back. And he might be considered more of a solid defensive presence, and he's physical.
With Braithwaite and Tarkowski in the middle, right?
Exactly. So I mentioned the physical thing there, and I think it's going to be a physical game, because, as I kind of alluded to earlier, I don't think Everton can win the game by going head to head in football terms. I don't think that they can win it that way. They can win it by making it difficult for Liverpool and frustrating them. Like, they'll get a chance or two. I mean, it's inevitable. Every game, teams get chances, and maybe this is the time that they take their chance. So I think that's their best recipe for a win, if they're going for that. But I think after the result at the weekend, I don't think there's as much pressure now for them to win.
Right.
If they'd have lost against Forest, I think they'd be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, they called that a 6-pointer. Yeah.
Right. So it was a big win for them, not just in terms of the points, but in terms of the psychology. Mm-hmm. And so if Everton loses tomorrow, obviously the fans won't be happy because they've lost to their local rivals, but it's not damaging in the sense that they beat Nottingham Forest, and I think they've got Sheffield United coming up. So I think they're in a pretty good position, and I'd be very surprised if Everton went down this year. Very surprised. And that's even with a points deduction.
Yeah, I'm looking there, 16th on 30 points, 4 points ahead of 17th. So yeah, they're almost.
The fact is with Everton, I mean, like they don't have a great squad, and that's largely attributed to the last few years of poor signings, instability, changing of managers. But I think Dyche has done a much better job than many of their fans realise, because take away the points deduction and they'd be much higher in the league. And I think that they'd have been able to play this season without the pressure that they'd been under after the points deduction, because at some point that has caught up with them. And so I would hypothesize that even with all of the limitations, they would clearly be a mid-table team, maybe around the 10th position, say. But other factors have kind of conspired against them this year.
Yeah. That must be frustrating as a team of players that, the administration did something incorrectly, and you have to suffer the consequences of that and shoulder the burden of not going down. I think Everton's the only team that hasn't gone down. Is that correct? I think.
What's in their entire history? No, I don't think Arsenal have ever played.
Yeah, I think.
I'm not 100% sure on that. Everton have been in the top flight since 1954. They have spent I think they've spent more seasons in the top flight than anybody else because they were founding members of the league.
Right.
And Arsenal came in at a later point. But I do have to say that if you look at the overall records, even though Liverpool have played less seasons, that they are the all-time first place in the English top flight.
Right.
I know they have all these things out on the internet and everything, but Liverpool's in first place there. So hey, we may not win the league this year, but we're all-time first. So we'll have to rest our laurels on that, unfortunately.
Coach, I want to kind of wrap up with potential starting lineup for this game. There's a lot of things a lot of ways Klopp can go. What are your senses on how he'll line up the team? Is it? Obviously Alisson, Van Dijk locked in. I think Trent will play. I think Robertson will play. Do you think he goes Kwanzaa or Konate?
Well, I've heard some people say that he might rest Robertson, but I don't think that would be a good move. And maybe play Gomez. I don't think that would be a good move because Liverpool look more balanced when they've got a left-sided fullback playing. And he's experienced, he's battle-hardened. He's missed a lot this year because of injury. I think we need him. Now, my gut feeling is that he'll go with Konate, but Kwanzaa is a local boy, so will he give the local lads the nod? My gut feeling is no. I think he'll go with Konate.
Okay. And then in the midfield?
Interesting. He played Endo, didn't he?
Yeah. It was Endo, Gravenberch, and Elliott.
I feel he's got to play Endo because Everton will be physical. I think McAllister will come back because he was clearly rested. So who does he give the third slot to? Does he show face in Gravenberch? My gut feeling is I wouldn't, but he knows the player better. He's a big lad and he's got athletic dimensions. I still feel he's young. I don't know how physical he is.
He carries the ball well through midfield too. He's a good dribbler. Like he does push the ball forward, kind of like Szoboszlai does. Not as intense as Szoboszlai, but I feel like he does that pretty well. Yeah.
So will he bring Szoboszlai back? He might. So he might go with his strongest three, which on paper is Endo, Szoboszlai, and McAllister. There's also the thoughts of Curtis Jones, again a local boy. Derbies mean a lot, like to the local lads.
Yeah.
Up front, obviously, as we've said, Jota's out. Does he keep face with Gakpo, who showed a bit of form? I would certainly keep Diaz on because I think that right back is a questionable area for Everton right now. Although he could put Nunes over there as well. He's not a winger per se, but he's high energy and he'll put the fullback under pressure. I would personally start Nunes because again Everton will be physical and he's just so high energy. I think you've really got to go Diaz and Nunes because they will they will make sure that Everton work hard at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Does he keep faith with Cody Gakpo because he showed some form? Does he bring Salah on as an impact sub? So, yeah, there's going to be some interesting calls. I think he's going to bring players back. I think he's going to bring lads back into the team that, that didn't start at Fulham.
Yeah, I would like to see Gakpo start. I think you're absolutely right about our left side, their right side, having Diaz or Darwin would make sense because how weak that side is. But I think I don't see why not give Salah just a little bit more time, just to maybe see the game from the side again and just recalibrate a little bit and come in, and we know what kind of damage he can do. But I think Gakpo's earned it. I really have.
Well, I think it's going to be an interesting call. And I think Saturday showed that Jurgen Klopp is very willing to make an interesting call. So, yeah, I think all is going to be revealed pretty quickly.
Yeah, I will. And, well, I think that's going to wrap it for this week. Coach, what was that?
Sorry. I accidentally touched the, I have the football on, the Arsenal-Chelsea game, and I accidentally touched,
got it.
The mute button.
No worries. Well, Coach, thank you for joining me again this week. Tomorrow at Goodison Park should be a good one. And for those listening, we'll be back again next Tuesday, and then we'll go back to our Mondays. Life comes up for us just as much as it does for you guys, so we have to adjust as things happen. And Coach, thanks again. And Liverpool fans, we will see you next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right, take care, everybody.